everyone. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today. My name is Sibel Dasti, and I am a member of the INUNI UK division team, INUNI being a company of global university systems. We are very excited to welcome one of our premium partner, Canterbury Christchurch University, located in beautiful Canterbury in Kent. And today, actually, it's quite special because we're going to be exploring the School of Psychology and Life Sciences and the undergraduate and postgraduate courses available and career opportunities. I am very excited to be joined by the academic team of Canterbury Christchurch University. So we have Dan Stretch, Director of Recruitment and Business Development, Alison Kearney, Course Director, Damian Coleman, Director of Sport Exercise, and Rehabilitation Sciences, Richard Venner, International Business Management, and in the background, our marketing INUNI team member, Jinx and Sukanya, that will be helping us throughout the webinar. Please make sure that any question you have, put them on the Q&A at the bottom of the screen, and we will get back to them at the end of the webinar. And just enjoy. The floor is yours, Dan.
Thank you very much, and thanks to everyone joining us. My name is Dan Stretch. I'm Director of Recruitment and Business Development for the School of Psychology and Life Science, which essentially means I look after recruitment to all of our sports-related courses at Canterbury Christchurch University, and it is really my pleasure to talk to you about those today. And I have some wonderful expert colleagues with me who I will throw to comment throughout all of this as well. Just to start off and set the scene, really, our section is the section of Sport, Exercise and Rehabilitation Sciences, as it says on the screen there. And we have a range of undergraduate and postgraduate course opportunities here that we're really excited to tell you about today. If I can just have the next slide, please. So just to set some session aims for today, we're going to look at, as I said, the undergraduate and postgraduate sports-related courses. We'll look at the design of those courses. I won't want to get bogged down into specific modules and what's taught on certain areas of all of the courses, because our offering is quite wide. What I would like to say in terms of setting the expectations of today is I want to introduce all of those courses, hopefully show you how wonderful they are and how exciting those opportunities are, and to really pull out key themes from each course, which I think are representative of all of the work that we're trying to do here as well. We'll talk a little bit about careers and what our students go on and doing, and really how we embed employability skills in all of our courses, which is an absolute golden thread for us in terms of the way we structure our teaching and our courses as a whole. And obviously we'll touch on higher education and how it can be beneficial, and we're trying to do the best job for our students that we possibly can while they're studying with us and for the future as well. If I can just have next slide, please. So I'm going to start off by, this will be essentially in almost two parts. I'm going to start off with our undergraduate courses, and you can see a selection of those courses on the screen now as well. We'll have a slide on each one of those courses. As I said, we won't look specifically too much at say the content, the exact content being covered, but we'll pick out key themes through each of those courses. Once we're done with that, we'll move on to postgraduate courses and try and tie it all nicely up at the end as well. Yes, next slide, please. Thank you. So I thought actually we would start off at the end maybe, and really just give a bit of an indication of where some of our students are moving on after they've studied with us. This isn't exactly an exhaustive list, but you can see I've tried to cover myself by listing alternative careers in the corner there as well. But just to pick out maybe some key themes, we have many of our students who are leaving us after undergraduate study, or indeed after postgraduate study, who are moving on to areas that might be more related to general sports performance. And that could be elite performance, for example, working with sports clubs, or as you can see, one of the boxes there says NGBs, which are national governing bodies. We also have a lot of our students who are moving into the health and fitness industry, so working in healthcare, maybe that's private healthcare, or for example, for us with the National Health Service is a big area that our students will go into. There's lots of other areas that we'll come back to later, but as I'll probably pass to Alison later, for things around teaching and maybe coaching and other areas like that are very popular for our students as well. So that was to really give you a bit of a flavour of what our students are going on. Some have gone on to do absolutely amazing jobs in things like the Ministry of Defence, and not to mention maybe jobs which are slightly more local. For example, lots of PE teachers working in local hospitals and other things like that as well. So there's a bit of a flavour of where our students are moving. But I thought now we dip straight into the first course, which I'd like to speak about. So again, just setting your expectations, I'm going to pick out some key themes, but if you want to know anything more about any of these courses, we really encourage people to go to the course pages, the websites, web pages for the individual courses. And in that, you can really get some description of what each module, the learning outcomes of that module, and give you a flavour of what it will be like to study on those courses as well. So in terms of the key themes here, I wanted to start with sport and exercise science, our degree, undergraduate degree course, because that is almost the centre of the courses that we teach. Whilst you move for a degree, you do get to, and this may sound a little corny, you do get to pick your learning journey by selecting certain modules. All of the other courses start off a little bit more specialising, whereas in the sport and exercise science degree, you get to pick modules, so you get to specialise within that more central area as a starting point. So although there are lots of modules there on the right-hand side of the screen, you don't study all of those. That's when you get options with us as well. I just do want to pause at this point and say all of the slides you'll be seeing today are an indication of what the course may look like. Obviously, all good universities should be looking at updating and changing their courses and the way the modules are structured or titled. So it could be that there are some slight changes to the slide you're seeing at the moment, which, to be honest, all good universities should do as they review their curriculum as well. My whole aim for today and my colleagues is to kind of place you on these courses, to give you an indication of what it feels like to study with us on one of these courses. And I really want to start off by how we structure our courses. So we have semesters, and we have 2 semesters a year, one running from around September through till January, and a second semester running from February round till May, June time. In each semester, you study 3 modules. So if you look at the left of the screen there, you can see that in the first semester on sport and exercise science, you study those top 3 modules. And in the second semester, you study those second 3 modules. And that really allows you to get into depth on those modules, then be assessed on them so that you can showcase your learning and your understanding before you move on again as well. As I said, as you move on to your second and third year, this is when you get some choice in your studies as well, and you get to really pick the direction you'd like to go on. For example, on the right-hand side, in the third year at level 6, I've coloured a couple of different modules. So, for example, students who may look to go down more of a sport performance route may take the modules coloured in light green, that's the right colour there, and those that are maybe more interested in the health and exercise would take those modules, or select modules like the ones that are in orange there as well. Just to make it clear, as I said, modules and courses are always changing and updating, but this is a really good representation of our current students and what their choices are. I think as I've spoken for a few minutes then, I should maybe fire to one of our experts first of all. Damien, as section director, and if you like, the lead of all of the wonderful work that goes on in the section of sport, exercise and rehabilitation sciences, do you maybe want to have a quick comment on this degree course generally?
Thank you, Dan. Hello, everybody. Yes, this is our most long-standing course in sport that we have at Canterbury Christchurch University. This course has been running for over 40 years, and the design we've got, as Dan has articulated, has evolved and continues to evolve with emerging trends. But probably over that period, probably the most important thing, and this goes for all of our courses, is that sport at Christchurch has become sort of really part of the institution, and it is a really sort of good area to study because we're one of the strongest departments at the university. But across playing practical sport, which of course most of our students do, is really a strong part of the student experience. And we're really, really proud of that because it helps students to understand the content of their degree, but also gives them a really excellent experience in terms of engaging with the wider population at the university.
Thank you, Damien. And so Damien's role here overseeing the section is to really look after all of the work that goes on in the area of teaching. But we also have lots of work in the area of consultancy, which we actively look to get our students involved in, which can really build their employability skills as well as the work of the research and our colleagues that conduct research. So there's opportunity for students to get involved in a whole range of different things above and beyond studying for their degree course as well. We'll return to many of those themes. As I said, if this is the course that is of interest to you, my suggestion would be look at the course webpage and then reach out to the university and ask any specific questions. And obviously at the end of this webinar, there'll be an opportunity to ask questions as well. But I think it might be good to maybe move on to our second offering. So if I can have the next slide, please. So this course is just one back, the psychology one, if that's okay. There we go, thank you. So this course is psychology, sport and exercise, and it's a different degree offering, and I hope it gives back to the point I was making before, that if you like, this is a degree where you are specialising in a certain area of sport and exercise science, namely psychology in this instance. And the first key point I would like to pick out is really around learning community. So although we have a number of different course offerings, what really is good about the way we have set everything up here is that different students will get to study with students on different courses as well. So if I take one example, for example, under the year one column, the psychology of sport, exercise and skill acquisition, that module is also taught in sport and exercise science. So you get to really work in a wonderful student community taught by a variety of different experts in that field. And that means that you then get to benefit from all of the different types of students and their interests and their experience when you are studying as well. I think at this point, whilst you're maybe glancing at the titles of some of the courses that you may be able to select, it's just to give you a sense of really what it feels like to study with us. So again, whilst I'm making a point on this slide, this applies to all of our courses. So essentially in the first year one or level 4, we control the modules that you study. So you don't get options at that level. As you move on to the second and third year, that's when you get options. You may think, well, Dan, what does this actually feel like to study there? Well, you are studying 3 modules per semester, as I mentioned earlier, and you should expect around 4 hours of contact per module. So 3 modules with 4 hours contact. That means face-to-face with your lecturers or in the labs working in those sessions, gives you 12 hours a week. Now that gives you other time in which you've got to complete all of the work to do, reading, which is very important, but also allows you to structure what your week looks like in terms of maybe that's playing sport or spending time with friends or taking in the wonderful city of Canterbury as well. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a sense of what it feels like to study with us. You'll get those blocks of when you're being taught, and the rest of the time is up to students to essentially structure what their week looks like so they can do all of the things they need to do to excel in their courses as well. I know I haven't spoken much maybe about psychology here, but you can really see how by the time you get through into level 5 and level 6, you really get into specialize in the area of psychology and have modules which are shared with our pure psychology courses as well, which gives you so much potential and opportunity to look at those areas in more depth. I think I'll just pause there. Damien, do you maybe have a comment here before we move on?
Thank you, Dan. Yes, this particular course holds the British Psychological Society accreditation, which is kind of the first step if you want to become a practicing psychologist in the UK. So there are very few courses, and even fewer with sport and exercise in the title, that carry that accreditation. So we're really, really proud of this, and really helps our students move forward into this industry.
Brilliant, thanks. I hope you're picking up some key themes from us about how important it is to obviously make the courses fun and interesting, but that we're also building employability skills and giving opportunities for the future, whether that's around accreditation or the other opportunities, which I'll come on to speak to a little bit later. If I can just have the next course, please. Next slide, thank you. Great, so this is our PE and Sport and Exercise Science degree. So it's physical education, sport and exercise science degree, and I'm very lucky to have an expert in the room in Alison, who I'll throw to in a minute. But this is another course where you can see, I've tried to represent this in a slightly different way, where you can see at levels 5 and 6 where you're getting options which are sport and exercise science options or PE options. So it's again that learning journey where you get to curate that around the areas which you enjoy and which you are good at, and hopefully they're the same thing, so you can map out your path as well. I think maybe before I pass on, I wanted to make a point that is quite close to my heart around our learning opportunities that we have here. There are 3 broad ways in which we teach the degrees. Obviously, there's lectures, which are in bigger rooms, normally with larger numbers of students, so in a PowerPoint where people are imparting knowledge and wisdom on you. There are seminars, which are often smaller group work, and that may be talking about readings or expressing or looking at the key themes in a little bit more detail. And the third type of learning, which I would characterize that we use, would be practicals. And the practical is definitely the way I like to teach my courses as well. And we really make sure our courses are as practical as possible, because that allows the students to put their learning into a real world environment, to actually demonstrate that they understand that knowledge isn't just superficial, and to, again, build those employability skills. So to set you up for that job that you want to do afterwards, which is definitely that key theme and golden thread running through all of these as well. Alison, this is your area of expertise. Do you want to make a comment on the course or something to say at this point?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Just like to add my welcome to everyone. I think just picking up on what Dan's talked about there in terms of real world employability skills, if I can just pick up around assessments. We have a wide range of sort of student communities where you're taught, as Dan's already explained, and I think that's matched with our assessment, our diet of assessment modes. So yes, we have academic study in terms of writing an essay or developing a portfolio, but we also have a lot of active learning through assessments. So on this course, as well as the other courses that Dan's talking about today, we'll have practical assessments where you may be looking at doing a presentation. On this particular course, we may ask you to teach a practical activity area and then evaluate the sort of the pedagogy around teaching and learning and how it impacts upon the human and the human interaction. So a wide range of assessment modes which enable you to demonstrate your subject knowledge and understanding across a range of aspects. So every individual is able to achieve their full potential. And that also leads to employability. So, for example, from many of these courses, you can go on to something like teacher training, which is our postgraduate certificate in education, and to be able to have used practical presentations on the course and then apply them through teacher training is a real strength of the course and enables good employability skills for an industry responsive degree. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Alison. I just to jump on the back of that as well, I think something that we really pride ourselves in is the way in which we give feedback to the students. We really put a lot of time and effort into making sure the feedback from their assessments is more than just a mark, but it's a way in which students can learn and then develop and move forwards for their next assessments or for their learning in general, and to be able to take as much from that as possible. So yeah, it's a wonderful point well made, Alison, as well. Can I have the next slide, please? So now we're talking about our sports therapy and rehabilitation degree. This is one of our newer degrees. We have been running this for 4 or 5 years now, and is an extremely popular course. So to give you an indication of maybe numbers on courses, something like our sports therapy and rehabilitation degree has normally 40, 50, maybe sometimes more students on. And you can really see how that means that we've got a really big learning community of different students with different expertise as well. You can see again some of the modules which are taught here as well, but I maybe want to focus on our facilities as well. We've been extremely lucky here. As Damien was maybe talking about how important sport and our sports courses are in terms of the university, we've also invested in our facilities very, very heavily over the last few years to make sure we have the areas, equipment, expertise, and opportunity for students to explore these really, really interesting areas. So a lot of the teaching for many of our courses takes place in what's called our Verena Homes building, which is our STEM building, science, technology, engineering, and maths. And that really houses all of our specialist facilities. And sport plays a big role in that. We are ground floor, front and centre, because we're always doing exciting things with our students using lots of expensive equipment. And as part of that, there are amazing sports therapy and rehabilitation facilities in terms of big teaching rooms, but also a clinic where our students will work as part of their placements. I'll mention placements again a bit later, but you can see the professional practice 1, 2, and 3 throughout this degree is students on placement. Now, they can choose to go and get an external placement and may do that for 1, 2, or even 3 of the years. But we also have an internal placement where our students can work in our clinic, which then services our staff, students, and externals, and really, again, allows them to build their skills, their employability skills, and how they work with clients and interact with different people in maybe the jobs they want to go into, rather than just the knowledge and that sort of, if you like, book teaching element of it as well. I think maybe, Alison, if you've got a comment, I think maybe if you could touch on something I haven't mentioned yet, to set you a bit of a challenge.
Always like a challenge. Thanks, Dan. Yeah, maybe I'll just pick up on sort of our pastoral care here at the university, especially across all our sports courses. You know, we understand that our student community at times needs support or may have specific individual needs. So we have various layers of support to help you achieve your full potential. So for each of your module, you'll have a module lead. You'll have a course director who course directs each individual course. You have the section lead. We have Damien here on the call who can also support. We also have a system called our PATs, which are our personal academic tutors. And these are tutors who will stay with you across your degree here at Christchurch and enable you to or give support to you at any point throughout your sort of learning journey. We also have a very strong student wellbeing centre here at the university. So if you have any specific learning needs, you are able to contact them, and there are various strategies that we can put in place to support your academic, your wellbeing, your mental health, to enable you to study effectively and efficiently. So lots of layers here to help and support you, and we really do care about you as individuals.
Thank you, Alison. I think I'd jump on the back of that and say we're nice. Like, I think we're genuinely really nice. We care about our students, and we're also in a very nice part of the world. So if you haven't had a chance before, please Google Canterbury and see what a beautiful city it is. So I think that's well said, Alison. I think the pastoral care is something that is really close to our hearts as our students move through their journey with us as well. And if I can move on to the next course to keep the pace going on this. So there's only 2 more to go at this level. I'll be brief on each of them. This is our sport coaching degree. So as you can see, examples of some of the modules and how these are shared with different courses as well for that learning community. I think maybe I want to just spend a little bit more time talking about placements, because although I mentioned it for the last course, this is another example of courses that have a course that has placements as well. So you can see the Coaching Action 1 and the Coaching Action 2 at years 2 and 3 are placement modules where students, again, and also just to mention that the PE Sport and Exercise Science course has those placements. So it's a key theme running through our courses as well. Students have the opportunity to go and seek their own placement. If they have links or would like to go and work in a specific area, then we will facilitate that for them. In some of the courses, for example, in sport coaching, we've had internal placements as well. So I'm lucky enough to run a unit here called Sports Lab. It's very exciting. It's a consultancy unit, so it's a real income generating business. But one of my passions is that we allow We can have students who are on placement come and work with us on that and gain that experience. And we also give opportunity to as many of our students as we can to come and do some paid work as well, to really build their CVs whilst they study with us. And what I'm trying to give you there is a bit of a flavour of, whilst you might be studying sport coaching and doing these modules here, there's so much more to studying the degree in terms of the opportunities that you can get, whether that's to be involved in sport, things that build your employability skills, or indeed, you know, having fun and meeting other people and joining groups and bits and pieces like that as well. I think I've mentioned placements a little bit. Alison, I know you've had some experience with this. Any comment on the placements and what the students get out of it as well?
Yeah, I think it links back to your point around employability. So if you're out in a local field working in a variety of sort of experiences, that could lead directly to employment. So we've had students that have been on work-based learning placements in schools, and then they've carried on and done their teacher training in those schools. So that would be the same for the sports coaching degree. If you're on a placement and working with a sports club, it may well lead to employability within that club or connections with that club. So yeah, I think that's another real strength of our course, is that link to the local industry, and how our teaching has real relevance to employability and career progression.
Wonderful. Through the work that we do as professionals, as experts in our field, we have lots of links with the industry, as Alison was saying, or maybe that's through research links that we have as well. So we can provide those opportunities, whether that's through placement or students, you know, maybe volunteering or going and us creating and helping them to develop those links as well. Wonderful. Just one more course I would like to touch on at the undergraduate level. So if I could have next slide, please. So this is our sport management degree. This is the newest of our courses. As you can see, we've got the modules listed there. You'll start maybe recognising some of those modules that exist in other courses. But to really give a snapshot of what this is a sport and business, or sport and management degree course, where you're still working within the world of sport, but you're getting to understand things around maybe project management, setting up events, or how you run the business of sport to a certain extent. Maybe the key theme I want to pick up on here, though, is around the experts. Obviously, we have all sorts of different academics that have worked in industry or bring different things to the table as well when they're teaching, but we also get in lots of guest speakers and other people that can contribute to our courses, which really keeps it fresh and live, and bringing in those new voices that might challenge the students, that might get them to think in a slightly different way, is something that's really important, and something which will feature heavily in this course, should that be the one that's of interest to you. Damien, as we haven't heard from you for a little while, so comment maybe on this course before we move on.
Thank you, Dan. This course, like Dan says, we run part of this course, really giving this a hard sport flavour, but it's also supported by our internationally renowned business school. And, you know, Dan's alluded to sort of business partners that get involved in this degree, and with these modules. And really, you know, that can't be overemphasized enough. You know, we have partners that come in, give our students live briefs that they work on, and then really support the industry partner as well. So it's a really good degree to kind of support, you know, movement into employment, and really working with partners that have key problems that graduates of tomorrow will need to sort of venture into and support and solve.
Brilliant. Thank you, Damien. We're sort of on track of where I wanted to be at this time. I think I've just got one more slide to just try and tie this in a bit of a loop before we move on to PG. So if I can just have the next slide, please. I started with maybe jobs and employability, and maybe I wanted to finish with a slide on that in terms of the undergraduate level. So in terms of where some of our students are going to work, and trying to be a little bit more specific around just one area. So I've picked sports clubs here, if you like, the performance sports side of things. These are all some of the different jobs which our students may and go on to study. So, for example, you can see nutritionists there, might be one area. Students have found that interesting when they've been introduced to that. Maybe selected modules that have allowed them to explore that a little bit more. And then by the time they've come to their third year, they've really got a taste for that's the area that they would like to go and work in. And that's just one area I'm picking out of, as you can see, a whole range of exciting jobs, which students that want to work in maybe more the performance area could go on and do. Obviously, I could have picked that in a number of different areas, but to just show you the depth and the kind of specialist areas you could go into, I thought that was a nice way to tie this up. So hopefully you've seen, you've got a sense of how we're trying to run this, giving you a bit of an overview of all the courses, whetting the appetite for them if you like. I'd like to do the same now with our postgraduate courses as well. So if I can just have the next slide, please. So our postgraduate options, you can see on the screen there, we have an MSc Applied Exercise and Health Science and an MSc Strength, Conditioning and Performance Science. And obviously there's other postgraduate opportunities around research. So a master's in research or indeed a PhD as well. So there's just, I'm going to take each one of those, maybe a slide or two on each, and then try and bring everything together with some coherent coherency towards the end as well. So if I can just have the next slide, please. Going to move into the MSc Applied Exercise and Health Science first. This is a very popular course. It's had a big international community on it for many years, and this really adds to the experience of all of the students in the course. I'm always struck by how interesting the room is when I've been with all of the MSc students. Obviously, we have a number of our undergraduates that move on to study a postgraduate course with us, but then the eclectic mix of people from a variety of different places, backgrounds, industry expertise already has meant these are such fun groups and courses to be involved with as well. They're taught slightly different. So they're taught in a trimester, which means that there are 3 blocks of teaching as well. So the year is slightly longer. It is a big talk component, but there's a lot of practicals in both of our MSCs as well, using those wonderful facilities and really getting into how you might work with patients, with clients, with different people from industry as well. Students get to study a dissertation when they're finishing these. That means their own research project, so they can really get to grips with something that they're interested in studying in the short term and maybe even looking at in the longer term as well. As you can see, it is an award-winning course for us as well. The student satisfaction scores are always incredibly high on this course as well. And I think one of the reasons for that is the variety of expertise that experts that will bring to that and put in front of the students for them to interact with them and learn from them as well. If I can just have next slide, please, before I maybe go to somebody else for comment. I just maybe want to show you some of the modules. You can see here how you're really getting to work in some fascinating areas around exercise and health in general. Lots of time in the labs, interesting assessments, piggybacking on what Alison had said about assessments earlier. These are industry relevant assessments often as well. So how you work in a lab, how you might look at and interpret results, for example, as well. And that really allows us to challenge the students in fascinating ways. And you can see interesting picture there on the screen. So, for example, that's our physiology lab, but we have movement analysis labs, other clinical labs, sports science studio, clinics, all sorts of different areas like that as well. Damien, before I move on, I've given a bit of an insight. Is there anything you might like to comment at this stage about that course?
I just reiterate what you said, Dan. This is a really, really enjoyable course to teach. It's dominated by practical work. We use a lot of technology and we apply that to different populations, different techniques, and really develop students' knowledge, but also practical skill sets, which we also assess. So it's good fun. And it really helps students understand. We find our practical events across all of our degrees actually are really good learning events to kind of cement understanding.
Yeah, I think some universities may have, for example, teaching and research labs. We have labs where everything goes on. It means the students get to bump into other teaching. They get to see consultancy, research, and really immerse themselves in that. So the experience is we'd like to think absolutely wonderful for all the students as part of our learning community as well. If I can just move on to the next area. So one more slide, please, for us. So I've spoken about the applied exercise and health science, which does what it says on the tin, introducing those areas. This MSc is more around strength conditioning and performance science, so really exploring the science of performance sport as well. You can see it's also taught in the trimester. There is that aspect of learning community. There'll be some of those modules which are shared. For example, the advanced lab skills modules is on both of those MSCs as well. And again, lots of time in the labs. We have specific strength and conditioning lab as well, where our students will spend a lot of time in there. They're linked to the industry, and we align them with things like the UKSEA, which is the UK Strength and Conditioning Association, so they're professional standards. And again, bringing in experts who are qualified, who work in different areas of elite sport as well. If I can just have the next slide, because we also have placements as part of this module. Again, we've had some that have stayed internal and worked with Sports Lab, worked for Sports Lab with us, and some that have gone to work externally in a number of different areas, and we can facilitate that kind of link happening. But just to make the point, so something like the advanced laboratory techniques, a lot of time in the labs with the other students also on the applied exercise and health science course. So really getting to hone that experience and seeing some of the students talking about the work they've done, questioning things, challenging their knowledge and understanding is something that's absolutely wonderful for both of these courses as well. Maybe Damien, a quick comment on this before we move on as well.
Yes, this is a really excellent course. I think having worked with the students in this field, they're really developing sought after skills in industry. And I mean, Dan, as our consultancy unit manager, that we could sell these skill sets across lots of sports, because the knowledge and understanding these students have is hugely valuable to helping people develop in elite sport. So it's really at the forefront of developing practitioners that the industry needs.
I think to maybe give a bit of more of a specific example, so students from both of those two MSc courses have come along and helped out when Sports Lab has been involved in working, sorry, in the last couple of months, sorry, around Formula One, cricket, football, hockey, rugby, as well as lots of individual athletes as well. So students being able to get involved in that is something that is really, really useful as well for them. Just next slide, please. I just want to have a quick word on our postgraduate research. I'm not going to spend too long talking about this, but there are a number of different areas of research that we have here. We've tried to gather them under some key themes and terms you can see there, and we have real experts and world-leading researchers in the fields you can see there, and reaching out to those experts, and again looking for a little bit more information maybe on the website in the first instance, or reaching out to us is the best way to explore those areas. What I would like to do with the remaining few minutes, though, is try and draw all of this together. So if I can have the next slide, please. I think what you might have noticed is a key golden thread for us is about the experience and the employment sort of skills that people can build here. We have a number of different ways we do that above and beyond the general teaching, if you like. One is Sports Lab, as I've mentioned there as well. So that's our consultancy service, getting the students involved in that, and being paid to do work in that area and support athletes, or indeed volunteering when something interesting is going on that someone wants to come and look at and get a bit more information on. We have placements embedded in a number of our courses where that's suitable as well. And I've highlighted that. I think that it's important to note that the students are often asked as the assessments for those placements to reflect on the placements and how that went, and that builds knowledge and understanding and key skills moving forwards as well. And as hopefully you've recognised as well, we're very, very proud of our industry links. So we work with lots of sports clubs, national governing bodies, different organisations within the world of sport and more broadly as well. And there's a few examples there of areas. So we have BASES, which is the British Association of Sport and Exercise Science. They accredit our labs. They are saying that our labs are of the standard that they would want them to be to loan their name to that. And that's something that's taken us a lot of work as well. We also have SimSpa, who have accredited a couple of our different courses as well. And then we have BASRAP, which is related to our sports therapy and rehabilitation course where students can gain experience. Damien, any comment before I move on and take a sip of water and try not to cough too much?
Okay, Dan. Yeah, this is really important for us. And I think Dan's understated the experience that we give our students here around our consultancy work. We work in a lot of high profile sports. Dan mentioned Formula One. We had 10 students working for a couple of days with a Formula One team to support a couple of days work whilst they came into our labs to get some data on those people. And those opportunities Dan pays our students for, because they are doing an incredible job to support the work we do. And that work actually then quite often spirals into additional work for us. So it really works well for the university, and our students love that experience because it puts really key information on their CVs, which really helps them for the future.
Brilliant. Just two more slides, and the last one is very, very quick indeed. So if I can just have the next slide, please. If the things we've been saying I haven't maybe convinced you that we are a potential opportunity for you, or at least that we're trying to do a very, very good job here. This is a bit of my sales pitch. It's the things I wanted to list that I think we do really, really well here. It's not an exhaustive list, but these are just some key bits I wanted to pick out. So we've mentioned pastoral care, looking after our students. We try and run an open door policy where our students can come and see us whenever they need us as well. I've spoken about learning opportunities, our assessment and feedback. We've talked about industry and how we're trying to build those graduate employment skills or employability skills. We also have good national student survey scores, and so that's our student reflecting on what they've enjoyed about our courses, as well as that real community of sport and culture and the way that sport plays a really important part in this university and in this city more broadly as well. And that even if it's beyond sport, there's plenty of other clubs and societies that people can get involved with as well. Maybe Alison, you want to say anything before I move on to the last slide? Anything to add or I might have missed?
Yeah, just maybe pick up on the importance of student voice. So one thing that's really important for us is to hear from our students. So we have undergraduate and postgraduate student forums where students are able to feed back on the teaching and learning and wider experience. And we act on the feedback and we make changes as required. We have pulse surveys throughout the academic year where students are able to respond as well. So we're sort of a very reactive group of sort of academics who respond to the needs of our students and always make sure that our student voice is heard. And I think that's really important because this is, after all, your degree and your learning journey that you're going on. And we're here to help and support you to reach the goal that you want to at the end of the degree.
Lovely. Well said, Alison. I totally agree as well. If I can have the next and kind of last substantive slide. Just really to home back, I thought it would be nice to put a photo of our newest building. So it's the Brina Homes building. The ground floor of that is all sport and exercise science. There's even areas like an anatomy lab where we have a number of cadavers, so students can go in there if they're looking, maybe they're doing anatomy and physiology. We do not force them if they don't want to go in there, but if they're learning about that, I really just wanted to finish with the wonderful facilities we have supported, which obviously supports the teaching we do here. I've spoken a lot about the labs, but there's other wonderful areas as well. So for example, Polo Farm, our sports centre, where there's lots of outdoor facilities for playing sport and for some of the teaching that we'll do as well. For example, Alison and her team spend a lot of time at Polo Farm, which has those pitches, classrooms, to allow a completely different way of learning outside of the classroom or the standard classroom so to speak. I think that was about the time I wanted us to draw a close on. If we could just have next slide, please, because that may bring us full circle. Before maybe there's a chance for questions, I just wanted to thank our experts for turning up and allowing me to throw to them with random questions. I hope you found it interesting and informative. What we tried to do is give you a flavour of our broad offering, and I would say this is the start of a journey. If you are considering maybe studying with us in the future, and the next step would be to reach out, investigate, find more information on the labs, and always ask questions if you need that from us as well. So thank you very much. I'll hand back. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dan, Alison, and Damien. That was indeed a very exciting and very inspiring, actually, webinar. I did learn a fun fact about actually the sports courses. You are holder of a Guinness World Record, correct?
We have a number of athletes in the labs doing various interesting things. I wouldn't dare drop their names right now, but we have truly wonderful athletes as well. And I think exposing our students to that top end of sport sometimes, or it might be realistic teaching, or it might be in the world of injury and rehab, is something that we very much cherish about our work here as well.
Excellent. I have a question, because when you talk about sport, the thing is always, how are we going to be assessed in the coursework? So can you tell us a little bit more about the way students are going to be assessed in general, like written, course?
Well, what I would start off by saying, my colleagues may want to chip in here in a second, but I would start by saying it's a really diverse assessment diet, so different types of assessment. There are very few exams. Some modules may still have them if they deem that appropriate, and that's going to test the learning outcomes they want and the knowledge and understanding. But we try and be innovative with our assessments. So most modules will have two different assessment types, and they'll look at maybe key learning outcomes from the module. So that could be more of a piece of coursework and that is more like an academic piece of work. And the other one may be more of a presentation or a group work, or something that is practical, is demonstrating their knowledge and understanding. Damien, maybe any comment, or is that does the job?
Yeah, I mean, the industry relevance of our assessment strategy sort of can't be understated, really. I mean, I teach nutrition, and the assessments we do are around, collecting data, crunching the numbers, interpreting the information, and writing a report, maybe with some body composition assessment in there as well. And those are exactly the kinds of things that you would be doing if you were working at a high-level sports club, or working in industry if you were working in that field. So everything's aligned, and it might sound a little bit odd, but we make sure our students go out the door with the absolute key skills which are industry aligned, because that is so important. I mean, my example there of body composition assessment, you can learn about that from a book, you can learn about that in a lecture theatre, but when someone strips off in front of you, you need all those practical skills and professional skills to actually deliver a really good service. So across the spectrum of modules, our philosophy really is, let's look at what's going on in industry and really interlink that with what we do.
What would be the workload, or like, question that comes very often, contact hours, workload per week?
So broadly speaking,
Students.
I'll try and keep this as simple as possible, but you'd be expected to do about 12 hours of contact, actually in the lecture room, the lab, the seminar room, working with, in front of your lecturer or your group of lecturers, or different lecturers that may come in, with the other students on your course. For every hour that you will do in contact, the theory is that you should do 2 hours in your own time. To be fair, in the first year, that is far lighter, because we want people to find their feet, to enjoy, to experience the beautiful city and all of those other things. But that gives you a model of what that looks like. So if it was then 12 hours in contact and another 24 in your own time, that would give you 36 hours a week, which is just like doing a full-time job. The way in which you can structure the majority of that, though, is in your own time. So some people may be night owls who want to work late at night. Some people may work very hard in the morning or set up a timetable. With students I work with, I always say, do a timetable first. When's your lectures? When are you going to do some of your reading and your work? When are you going to enjoy yourself? When are you going to play sport? When are you going to do these different bits and pieces as well? And that really allows you to have the balance. And the balance is really one of the key things to being a good student in higher education.
So we have an interesting question: is what kind of health assessment are typically needed before enrolling in sport program? So if there is any health assessments before enrolling to any of the programs?
In terms of tariff entries, I don't know whether, Richard, at this point you may want to come in and make a comment. There's no specific course background that we would want, and people come from, especially in the example I was giving was in our postgraduate courses. So a course like the Applied Exercise and Health Sciences had a number of different people. So people who have been, if you like, qualified physiotherapists working all around the world for a number of years, who want to come back and study at our university on that course. In terms of all of the undergraduate courses, we align the same entry requirements across all of those as well. Which you maybe have a comment about entry. There's nothing specific from a sports point of view that I would make.
Yeah, of course. I think looking at the question, it's about, Sybil, it's about health assessment. Is that right? Like how?
Yes, it's like if
healthy
they
and
are fit
do you
or
have to
not
be?
before joining the course.
I can take that, Richard. Actually, what I would say is you in no way need to be an incredible sports performer or have a particular level of fitness to get on any of the courses. What you do need is a love and an interest for, I would say, the area. And that will be all of that you need in terms of there are no other fitness or sports related criteria. And that's what adds to this wonderful learning community and all of the different people. There may be some athletes in there, or there will be some athletes in there, some people who like to watch sport or take part in it or exercise or activity from a completely different angle. And that's the richness of the community that you get.
So, you mentioned during your presentation all these opportunities for students to actually do some work during their studies, some training or internship, correct? What about after they graduate? So I know that there is possibilities that Canterbury offers, such as UNITAM. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, whilst what I would say is we find a lot of our students that as they are studying with us, maybe the links that they have, if they go on to placement, for example, and that goes well, that could lead directly to employment opportunities. Lecturers will always pass on job opportunities and other bits which they feel may be relevant to the students whilst they are studying with us as well. And there are lots of other opportunities to get involved in employment to sort of build those skills that we've been spoken about. We have a UniTemps, which is our own temping agency as well. And that allows people to look at any jobs that may come up, but within the university, but that could be in any area, for example, as an ambassador and working at open days, so welcoming other students in as well. We also get a variety of internships, which in the first instance, if staff have managed to get an internship in a certain area, so it might be, I don't know, the development of social media materials as well, but we'll look to our students and be able to offer those opportunities. So a real variety, and I would say the students that really get stuck in and embrace all of those opportunities are the ones that get the most opportunities moving forwards afterwards as well.
What would be typically the size of a classroom, the number of students, in a classroom?
Absolutely. I think if we go broadly across how many people are on the courses, so our biggest courses are often the sports therapy and rehabilitation, sport and exercise science, or PE sport and exercise science. They're bigger groups, could be 30, 40, 50. I would say 40 is a good indication of what they may be on that course. Something like the sports management, sport coaching, and psychology, sport and exercise tend to be smaller groups as well. There will be sometimes when you are just with that group for a specific module, but as I've spoken about that in terms of the learning community and with the shared modules, if there is a module like the psychology of sport and skill acquisition, for example, that is taught on a number of our different courses. So that could have students from all sorts of different courses. And in a big lecture, it could be that there's well in excess of 100, 120 in that lecture, but often they're broken down into smaller seminar groups or practical groups as well. I know that seems that I've not given a specific number, but it shows you how we're trying to set this all up and what the vague numbers of people on the courses are as well.
Very good. And one last question. Does all the sports students have access not only to the lab, but to the fitness facilities? Or is it a membership for the fitness facilities?
So we have a number of different facilities as well. Obviously, students can join all sorts of different sports clubs and societies at their time at university, and we would actively encourage them to do that as well. It really is, playing sport at university is really some of the most fun you can ever have, along with the other societies and clubs. There is a wonderful sports centre which has a fully fitted out and with brand new equipment, fitness suite, as well as a big sports centre with climbing walls and a studio and other bits and pieces like that as well as the outdoor pitches we have at a place called Stodmarsh, which has mainly football and rugby pitches, and Polo Farm, which is set up more for hockey, cricket, and things like that as well. In some years, students have been given free membership to the sports centre. I couldn't possibly tell you for certain whether that is next year. At the moment, but what I will say is they are student memberships, which means that they are incredibly cheap compared to all other competitors as well. I don't know, as I've spoken for a while, any other comments? Maybe Alison, anything you want to piggyback on the back there?
Well, I was just picking up on our scholarship program as well. I know you've mentioned it on one of the slides, but just to be specific, there is a scholarship program. So any student at the university, whether they're doing a sports course or not, can apply for a sports scholarship. Again, they can get information around that from the web pages, which provides financial support from Sports Lab. You'll get a mentor as well. So if there's anyone that has a specific sort of skill in a sport, then that is something else that we can consider and that they can get involved in, which again adds to their employability and their career prospects as well, and supports a high performance sport experience as well.
Richard, can you confirm that this is on top of the international scholarship that students are getting, correct? The sport scholarship?
That's correct, Sybil, exactly. And not forgetting as well as you mentioned, our international student scholarship of £1,500 per year. So that's every year that you're studying with us, reducing the tuition fees down to a very affordable £14,000 per year.
Absolutely, which is basically all the programs, almost all the programs have one fee, one English requirement, a fantastic facility in a fantastic part of the UK, just 1 hour from London. So the application are still open. Please don't hesitate to put your application in. We will be happy to support you in the different region. And thank you again for Dan, Alison, and Damien for honestly, if I was a little younger, that's a program I would love to join, but I think I'm too old for it. But that was very, very inspiring, very, very informative. Thank you so much all for your time today. I think we're at the end of the time allocated to us. Anything else you would like to add to everyone?
No, just thanks for taking the time. If you found it interesting, as I said, this was meant to be the introduction, and if you still may be inspired on the website, reaching out to the university is the way forward. And I would very much love to see you in the beautiful city of Canterbury at some point in the future. Thanks for listening.